Do this to raise your shadow vibration and unlock the powers few ever reach. We all chase light. It's what the world tells us to do. Be positive. Think happy thoughts. Stay high vibe. But if that was the key to true power, wouldn't more people be free? Wouldn't more people be living in alignment? Wouldn't the world already be healed? The truth is, we've been taught to fear the very part of ourselves that holds the real codes to our evolution. Not the polished, public self, but the one we keep hidden. The one we suppress. The one that lives in the dark. Your shadow. And here's the secret. If you want to raise your vibration in a way that few ever do, you have to stop avoiding the shadow and start raising it. You have to integrate it, not escape it. Because the most potent spiritual power, the kind that bends timelines and unlocks soul-level mastery, doesn't come from being pure. It comes from becoming whole. So how do you do it? How do you raise your shadow vibration when everything in you has been conditioned to avoid it? First, we have to understand what the shadow actually is. It's not evil. It's not your enemy. It's made up of all the parts of you you've had to exile in order to be accepted. It's the anger you were punished for expressing, the grief you were told to hide, the instincts you denied, the truth you repressed. The shadow isn't darkness. It's compressed light. It's power trapped in distortion. And when you learn to raise its vibration, you're not becoming more spiritual, you're becoming more you.
Click subscribe to this channel to get more profound spiritual lesson.
The first step is presence. You can't integrate what you won't sit with. Most people bypass this by over-meditating, over-journaling, over-affirming. But none of that works if your nervous system is rejecting the energy underneath. So you need to drop in. Like really drop in. Sit with the discomfort. The restlessness. The part of you that wants to run. The part that says, this is too much. The part that flinches in the silence. Feel it. Don't analyze it. Don't fix it. Just be with it. Because shadow work isn't about thinking, it's about feeling what was never allowed to be felt. And the more you allow those feelings to rise, the more you begin to unfreeze the energy that's been trapped there. As you do, you'll notice something strange. You'll feel heavier at first, tired, maybe even more confused. That's the detox. That's your field recalibrating. You're literally raising the frequency of your shadow by allowing that density to move. And here's where it gets interesting. Once that movement begins, your intuition will sharpen, your dreams will intensify, your body will start communicating in new ways. You'll feel impulses, instincts, knowing. Because the shadow doesn't just contain pain, it contains gifts, psychic gifts, creative gifts, leadership codes, frequency mastery. But those gifts are encrypted. They're hidden behind emotion. You have to feel to unlock them. Once the flow returns, your job is to listen, to track the patterns. Notice what triggers you. Notice who drains you. Notice when your energy spikes or crashes. These aren't random. They're messages from your field. Triggers, especially, are sacred. They show you where your shadow is still vibrating at a lower frequency. So instead of reacting, pause and ask, what is this emotion trying to teach me? What part of me is asking to be reclaimed? That question alone will change your life, because what you reclaim, you transmute. And what you transmute, you own. And what you own, you can finally wield. You'll also need to release the idea that healing your shadow means becoming peaceful all the time. No. Raising your shadow vibration means expanding your capacity to hold grief, to hold rage, to hold power without collapsing. It means being able to walk into a room and feel the frequency of everyone in it without tuning out your own. It means setting boundaries without guilt, speaking truth without apology, saying no without explanation. That's what the shadow teaches. It brings back your rawness, your edge, your sovereignty. And in a world addicted to performance, your authenticity becomes your highest vibration. But make no mistake, this is not the easy path. This is the real path. And it will cost you. It will cost you the versions of yourself that were built on survival. It will cost you the relationships that were built on conformity. It will cost you the illusion that you can be powerful without being honest. But what you get in return is worth everything. You get your frequency back. You get your clarity, your wildness, your voice, your soul. And most importantly, you get your choice. The ability to choose your reality, not from fear, but from full spectrum alignment. So here's the deeper question. What part of yourself are you still afraid to feel? What emotion have you labeled as too much or too dark? What truth have you silenced in order to fit in? Because that right there is the portal. That's the vibration that, once raised, will unlock a new level of your power, not because you forced it, but because you finally stopped resisting it. You are not here to be hufflet. You are not here to be digestible. You are here to be fully embodied. And there are levels of power, creativity, and multidimensional intelligence that are only accessible once you learn to raise the vibration of the parts of you were taught to hide. The weapon of wholeness, why integrating your shadow turns you into a manifestation superconductor. We've all been told that manifestation is about thinking the right thoughts, visualizing the perfect future, staying in high vibration. But that's only part of the equation, and for most people, it's the least effective part. Because thoughts without coherence are just noise. Visualization without alignment is fantasy. High vibration without integration creates spiritual bypassing. This is why most people feel like they're doing everything right, but still not seeing results. They're manifesting from fragments, not from wholeness. And that's exactly why shadow work is the hidden key. Because the moment you integrate the parts of you that have been rejected, shamed, or abandoned, you don't just become healed. You become magnetic. You become a living superconductor for manifestation. Let's break that down. Imagine your energy field like a circuit. Every fragmented part of your psyche, every suppressed emotion, every unprocessed trauma breaks the flow of that circuit. It creates static, resistance, leaks. You might be asking for abundance, but if your shadow still believes you're unworthy, your signal is scrambled. You might be visualizing love, but if your shadow still carries betrayal, your field is sending out mixed messages. The quantum field doesn't respond to what you want. It responds to what you are. And what you are is the sum total of your integrated and unintegrated parts. This is why integration is not just healing, it's strategy. When you integrate your shadow, you restore the integrity of your frequency. You close the loops. You remove the static. And all of a sudden, the things that used to feel impossible start to align without force. Synchronicities increase. Decisions feel clearer. People treat you differently. Not because the world has changed, but because you've become coherent. You're not leaking power anymore. You're embodying it. But here's where most people get it wrong. They think integration means getting rid of the darkness. That's not integration, that's suppression in disguise. True integration means you let the shadow speak. You let it inform you. You allow it to contribute to your frequency instead of hiding it behind a spiritual mask. Maybe your shadow is fierce. Good. That's your boundary energy. Maybe it's seductive. Good. That's your magnetic pull. Maybe it's chaotic. Good. That's your creative genius. The goal is not to neutralize your shadow, it's to liberate it so it can serve your becoming. The most powerful beings on this planet are not the ones who only live in the light. They're the ones who can walk through any field, light or dark, and remain unchanged. They can hold space for rage and still speak with love. They can feel grief and still take action. They can be triggered and still stay present. That's what integration creates. It gives you range, flexibility, presence, and that presence is what reality responds to. So how do we do it? How do we turn integration into a living practice instead of a vague concept? The answer is radical self-honesty, not just in your thoughts, but in your body. Your body never lies. When you speak a truth that's aligned, your body relaxes. When you speak a truth that's distorted, your body tightens. So start there. Track your body's reactions. Let it teach you where your shadow still lives. Then, instead of trying to fix it, feel it. Ask it what it needs. Dialogue with it. Breathe with it. This isn't a one-time ritual. It's a lifestyle. A practice of becoming so honest with yourself that your shadow no longer has to hijack your life to be heard. And once it's heard, it begins to harmonize. It stops acting out. It stops projecting. You no longer need to run from situations that reflect your pain, because you've already claimed the part of you that was in pain. That's when the shift happens. You start to notice that you're manifesting faster, not because you're trying harder, but because the field finally trusts you. You're not divided. You're clear. And clarity is the most attractive force in the universe. So here's the deeper question. What would your life look like if you stopped shaming your shadow and started collaborating with it? What if you treated every emotion, every pattern, every conflict as a frequency code to be decoded instead of a problem to be solved? What if your shadow wasn't the thing holding you back, but the thing that, once integrated, would launch you into levels of manifestation the world isn't ready for? Because that's where this path leads. To a level of power that doesn't need to be loud. To a level of magnetism that doesn't need to be explained. To a level of reality creation that feels like breathing. You don't have to try to attract what's already in resonance with your fully integrated self. It just finds you. It meets you. Because you've become a match for your own destiny. You are not here to fight your shadow. You are here to raise it. To make it so coherent, so embodied, that it begins to work for you, not against you. That's the weapon of wholeness. That's the superconductor state. And once you taste it, you'll never go back to fragmented manifestation again. Embodied alchemy: how to physically anchor high-frequency shadow codes into your daily life. We can talk about shadow work all day, but if it doesn't land in your body, it's just theory. Real transformation doesn't happen in the mind alone. It happens in the way you breathe, walk, speak, and move through the world. It's not enough to understand your shadow. You have to embody it. You have to anchor the codes you've reclaimed into your nervous system, your habits, your physical reality. Otherwise, the energy you've activated will stay floating in your field, untethered, intense, chaotic, and eventually overwhelming. Embodied alchemy is the final step most people skip, but it's the one that changes everything. It's what turns insight into power. It's what turns healing into magnetism. It's what turns shadow into sovereignty. You must understand that your shadow is not just emotional, it's cellular. Every suppressed truth, every silenced instinct, every unexpressed rage or grief has left an imprint in your body. Your posture holds it. Your voice carries it. Your breath reflects it. That's why doing shadow work without embodiment is like downloading a powerful software and never installing it. The codes are there, but they're not running. To activate them fully, you have to bring them through the body. You have to let the new frequency move you differently. Start with the breath. Your breath is the bridge between unconscious and conscious, between shadow and light. Most people breathe shallowly, unconsciously, never realizing that their breath is frozen in fight-or-flight patterns. If you want to anchor high-frequency shadow codes, the breath must be reclaimed first. Practice breathing into the parts of your body that feel numb or tight. Breathe into your belly, into your hips, into your throat. These are the places where shadow hides. These are the centers of your power, your truth, your will. When you breathe fully, you're telling your nervous system, it's safe to be here. It's safe to hold this energy. I don't need to run anymore. Next, look at how you move. Your shadow has shaped your body language. It's in the way you shrink when you speak, the way you avoid eye contact, the way you hesitate before setting a boundary. But once you've integrated those parts of you, your movement must change too. This doesn't mean you have to become someone else, it means you reclaim what was always yours. Stand taller, walk slower, speak from the depth of your diaphragm, not the surface of your throat. Let your presence take up more space. This is how the body begins to reflect the integration. This is how you signal to the field that you are no longer hiding your power. Anchor through ritual, not as performance but as programming. Rituals are how we encode energy into matter. You can create a daily practice where you meet your shadow with devotion, not to fix it, but to befriend it. Light a candle, play a frequency, right to the part of you that still feels unworthy, misunderstood, or angry. Ask it what it needs. Move your body as it asks. Release through sound, cry, shake, laugh. Let the body speak. Because when the body speaks, the quantum listens. This is not about drama. It's about data. Emotion is data. The body is the hard drive. And you are the conscious coder now. The more you do this, the more your outer life begins to reflect your inner coherence. You start to notice that the people around you begin responding differently. You're no longer attracting lessons, you're attracting matches. You're no longer being tested, you're being trusted. And that trust comes from the field sensing your stability. You're not just carrying power, you're anchoring it. You're not just aware, you're embodied. That's when reality starts to move in your favor, not because you're trying harder, but because you've become magnetically aligned at the level of form. So ask yourself, how is your body still holding your past? What truth are you ready to express with your posture, your breath, your voice? What ritual can you create, even in 5 minutes a day, to honor the parts of you that were once cast away but are now ready to come home? Because embodiment is not about perfection, it's about presence. It's about showing up in the world with the fullness of who you are, shadow and all, and letting that be enough. That's where your magic lives. That's where your power stabilizes. That's where the codes become real. The final gate, what happens when your shadow vibration becomes a beacon for higher dimensional intelligence. There comes a point on this path when your shadow isn't something you're healing anymore, it becomes a frequency you radiate with mastery. It no longer pulls you into loops, it pushes you into leadership. It no longer disrupts your peace, it becomes the engine of your purpose. And when that happens, something extraordinary begins to occur. You become a beacon not just for people or opportunities or timelines, but for higher dimensional intelligence. You begin to receive transmissions, insights, and connections that don't come from the mind. They arrive through the field, through sensation, through knowing, through dreams, through the silence between your thoughts. Because now, your shadow vibration has reached such coherence, such clarity, that it acts as a magnet for cosmic intelligence. This is the final gate, the one few ever reach, because it requires a level of self-responsibility so high, most people won't touch it. By this point, you've stopped blaming the world. You've stopped outsourcing your power. You've stopped needing to be rescued. You've walked through the fire of your own fragmentation and come out integrated. And that integration turns you into a transmitter. You don't just create your reality, you translate frequencies from other realms into this one. You become a bridge between dimensions, a living interface between human experience and divine intelligence. But this isn't about becoming psychic or mystical for the sake of it. It's about being available at a vibrational level to receive what can only come through a refined field. The universe speaks in vibration, and when your shadow is coherent, your entire system becomes a clear frequency channel. You begin to notice that your thoughts feel different, less like thinking, more like receiving. You don't force ideas, they arrive. You don't chase clarity, it emerges. You don't reach for wisdom, it inhabits you. Because your field is finally quiet enough to hear what's always been speaking. And perhaps the most radical part of this is the kind of intelligence that begins to find you. It's not always sweet or soft. Sometimes it's disruptive, it's precise. It recalibrates your path in a moment. It tells you to let go of things your ego still wants. It reveals truths you weren't ready to face until now. That's because higher dimensional intelligence doesn't cater to your comfort, it aligns you to your mission. It doesn't care about your preferences, it cares about your potential. And when you've raised your shadow vibration to this level, you can finally receive it without resistance. You begin to walk differently, not from strategy, but from resonance. You say less, but every word carries weight. You move slower, but every step creates ripple effects. You're not driven by fear or urgency, you're moved by unseen currents. You become a vessel, a lighthouse, not because you planned it, but because you stopped being afraid of your own depth. And in that depth, you unlock the signal that the higher realms trust. Because they don't trust perfection, they trust embodiment. They trust coherence. They trust those who have faced the dark and come out with light, not as a performance, but as a frequency they've earned. So now the question becomes, what will you do with this power? Not the power to control others, but the power to reveal truth just by existing. Are you willing to carry it without ego? Are you willing to live in such integrity that your presence becomes a portal to remembrance for others? Are you willing to become so aligned with your shadow light that your life becomes a message without saying a word? Because that's the final gate. When your existence becomes the teaching, when your walk becomes the transmission, when your integration becomes the invitation for others to rise. And you don't do it to be seen or followed. You do it because it's who you are now. You've crossed the threshold. You've earned the codes. You've become the embodiment. You don't need more proof. You are the proof. You don't need to seek the frequency. You are the frequency. You raised your shadow vibration, and in doing so, you unlocked the power that only the few, the brave, the truly embodied ever reach.